Hey guys, Chance again. Thanks for coming back. I was putting my tools away, and I don't know, I just didn't like what these were stored in. They don't have a whole lot of, I don't have a whole lot of space in my storage container for extra clutter, and so I decided I would go ahead and start from scratch and show you kind of the wet mold process as well, because I didn't show you with the holster. So I'm going to replace this plastic. At some point in the future, I will be making a compartment or a storage case for those as well. But I wanted to show you how I started, and I went ahead and I grabbed the rough size of the outside by using the old case itself, right? And I want just a little wrap, so roughly the size of this case, and then I wanted just enough on the underfold here that I could get a little bit of pressure on a taco hold, right? And then I'll have buttons here. These edges will roll in, and then I'm going to use some of this leather firmer, just like I did on the holster, so that I can pop the top open, and then all of these pieces will just be slid on the inside. And I assume, for security reasons, I'll put that bar somewhere in the middle, and then I'll put snaps on the top, and then these sides, again, they'll kind of roll in on both the front and the back, and I hope that it'll provide a really good pinch. If it's not going to give a good enough pinch, I'll obviously go ahead and sew those, and then I'll stuff these into the leather pouch, and I will wet form it around that and stretch it as necessary. I did go ahead and get a portion of this pre-prepared. I'm not going to cut it on camera because that takes a lot of time and is not very great, and one of my neighbors is mowing right now as well, so I imagine recording or audio quality for the next, I don't know, 6 hours is going to be terrible. So I'll go ahead and cut this out and start working on some of the smaller detail work, but I'll be back and I'll show you some of the process. Thanks. All right. I have cut my leather strapping out. You'll notice I've refined my inner edges there a little bit so they don't look so goofy. And I have plastic wrapped, arranged, and tape wrapped my tools. And then, you know, as you see, that's how that should fit. These edges should roll in just a tiny bit. I'll probably trim them just a little bit more after the first wet forming, but I'm going to show you that real quick. I'm going to cord bind it the same way I did the first one, and then I'm also going to, with my microfiber bedding, I'm going to put the weight on top of this again as well. I'm probably going to use a book underneath the weight to keep a good even pressure on this as well. So I'm going to pull my basin with water up. I'm going to dunk this real quick. I'll use a good dry microfiber to dry off any excess crazy dripping water. But this should be here. You know what? I also need a good saran wrap base layer. I'll go ahead and I'll put my microfiber bedding up here. So that it's ready. And then, geez, man. I even punched the things in on the side and it still comes out. It's crazy. Be all right. And the reason I'm doing this is because I want the leather to stay wet at least for a moment. I don't want it to dry out super fast. As long as this plastic wrap doesn't stick to my leather, it'll be okay. And yeah, dude, I'm gonna soak this whole thing. I want it wet. Hear the bubbles sizzling. There's oxygen coming out, whatever. Maybe it's chemicals. I don't know what it is. Who cares? I'm gonna get all the excess drips off if I can. Sweep some of that extra moisture off the surface because I don't need all that extra. I'm gonna take my dry microfiber and tamp some of the surface again because again, the leather's already soaked. It's super soft and floppy. It'll be nice and easy to work with. Let me go ahead and, well, I guess I ought to center my workpiece, correct? I'm gonna put probably about there, so that when it folds over, I want these corners on the bottoms to line up pretty good. I think that looks all right. Make sure my top is centered. I'm gonna go ahead and fold this piece in as well, and then I need something to hold this down temporarily, so I'm going to use my leather hole punches and get another sheet of plastic. And again, this is because I want this leather to stay wet a little bit longer than what an air dry will allow. So I'm just going to trap some of this moisture inside. And then when I put my microfiber bedding on the top of this, here we go, I'm going to hold that top flap in position. We're good there as well. And then, well, I'm going to give it a little bit more spacing. I really want those flaps to squish down pretty good, so I don't think it's going to unfold at this moment. I'm going to give it some more pressure here. And by pressure, I'm giving more space for this to really squish down pretty good because I want this to be as tightly formed as I could possibly get it. I think that's fine, probably. I might go ahead and put just a little bit more weight on this. I know what I just said. I'm going to undo all of this real quick because I intended on binding this the same way I did the Moonman holster, and I failed to bind this. So I'm going to get my cord out. I'm going to go ahead, I'm going to put my first knot. It's going to be a double right there. I'm going to pick this up. I'm going to go ahead and knot that around the edge there. I'm just going to try and tie this as tightly as possible. It's probably too tight, honestly. I can tell it's too tight because it's rolling that middle piece in, which is unfortunate because I don't want it to do that. There. Do it like that. just roll those edges in by finger probably. Yeah. I should have put some sort of rigid backer inside of the taped case, because now I'm being cursed by its desire to, you know, those pins want to roll. It's kind of difficult to hold everything on the inside still, because everything wants to come apart, because it's, you know, they're round, they're pins. They don't want to stay together inside of there. They want to roll over the top of each other and adjust position. And I just want these edges to curl inward. This is another reason I'm going to use all that weight. This is way more binding than I had on it last time. But that's fine. I'm going to probably flatten this with a hammer. Nice and flat, and then the bottom bit is still lined up. The top flap looks good. Now that it's had a little bit of time, we'll try to restack. That's good and balanced. It has been a few hours. I'm going to go ahead and get straight into the next phase of this, which is going to be shaping and cutting off some of the edges that maybe I don't like very much. Looks like it's doing pretty good. I got a little off-centered there, but it'll be okay. Looks pretty all right. Cool with that. A bit like that. Honestly, that's pretty good. I don't even think I'm going to change that. That's fine. It totally wraps the thing. That's neat. That's cool. It is still damp. I don't even know. Honestly, I don't know that I want to change anything about this. I may clean this edge up just a little bit real quick. Yeah, I'll clean the edge up just a little bit. Gotta get my tools. So I've already hit all these edges here. I'm gonna heat them up just a little bit more than they look right now. And this is, honestly, this whole thing is just for some punches, so it's not really, it's not going to be luxury goods here, but they're pretty neat, I think. We'll clean the inside edge here out. Clean this inside edge here out as well. Uh-oh. Here we go. And since these are practically going to be touching, I'm going to leave them alone. Clean the inside of this up as well. I don't like the way that looks, so I'm going to come from the other side. Unfortunately, it's kind of hard to do that with the offhand. I can try here. I'm not as coordinated. Yeah, see? Not as coordinated. I would rather go the opposite direction. Should I do the insides? Yeah, I'll do it. Whatever. Water heater popping back there. Roughly what I want. See if I can get these to lay back in there the way they need to. Yeah, those will be fine. And I'll pull these edges back up like that. Yeah, cool. All right, and then since it's already damp, I'm going to go ahead and I will at least dye the inside. I'll probably get both the inside and the outside. I was using my dyes earlier on a different project. I was also using some rivets. I don't even need to move those. This is my chocolate dye color. I think I like going chocolate on the inside of tool bits. I'm going to try and pour this a little bit faster than I have been because it still goes down the sides and it's always messy, but I think I'm learning that if you do it a little bit faster, it's a little bit less messy. Still messy nonetheless. And I did not color the edges with a Sharpie this time. Frankly, I don't care how the edges look this time. I'm just gonna really base this stuff on. I'm gonna get the whole edge as well. This is the chocolate dye. And so if it wraps around the outside edge just a little bit, that'll be okay. It'll give some character to the overall thing. Again, this is just for some punches. It's actually what I use to set buttons and rivets. Rivets a little less so. I can I can do rivets without this stuff that goes inside of this specific kit here. This is really for buttons. Rivets are set on an anvil with a hammer, or just a hard surface, really. Any hard surface, it's hard enough, I consider an anvil. Don't quote me. I don't know how much of this dye you're actually ever supposed to use. I don't care. I just want my stuff to be fully colored. That probably rolled around the back side and touched my lid. Good thing it's just for my own tools. Get a little bit more saturation there. Here on the borders. A little bit there. Yeah, I touched it a little bit. I'm going to flip this over to its belly. And this is my golden brown. I don't think I have enough left in here. Which means I'm going to make a slightly larger mess. Never forget to bring your daubers. I'm going to do this the same way that I've done all of the other ones. Just going to put dye on it until I'm satisfied. If it looks like crap, I'll do some more. Try to keep these blend lines nice and saturated so there's not a disgusting looking overlap. And I'm going to jump right back into a wet press of this. Because I want it to maintain its shape. I should put some sort of cling wrap or something over these because they're going to off-gas, but that's fine. Because I don't have the time to do that right here at this very moment. I guess technically, here, whatever. I'll do this one. Put all the daubers in the darker one. There we go. Just double wrap, whatever. I'm going to take one more sheet. Put it off to the side for now. Here we are. Get my tools again. Oh, yeah, I'm going the wrong direction. Here we go. Going like that. And generally, you do not need to wet form these multiple times, but I want such a sealed casing that not only did I wet form, I'm going to wet form a second time with my dye, and then I will probably form again with the leather firmer, at least on a portion of that. Cool, so now you've seen pretty much start to finish on the, minus the cutting, the dyeing. I've got the wet form. I'll pull it back out in just a little bit, and we'll see overall fit. I'll put on some buttons, and then that'll be that. Don't want the dye to stay super wet for a long time. I just want a little bit of full saturation. Come on, man. There we go. Now, you know, it's been sitting for a little bit. It should hold its own long enough to dry. So I'm putting it back up here on its non-stick. What I'm also going to do is I'm going to take the punches out of it, so the inside also has some time to dry a little bit, because otherwise it's just going to stay damp. We'll just leave that like that. I'm actually going to break these back open. Let's see if I can just hear that package. Very cool. I need these so I can go drive some rivets. But when I come back to you next time, this will be pretty dry. I think I'm going to dunk this in the leather firmer before I add buttons, but I'll show you how I do my buttons as well. Generally, I start by punching my holes here, and then I will get all my stuff inside of it. I'll run the back side of the buttons in, and then I will close this kind of to where I want it, and I'll press down so that there's an indentation from the inside of the button ring on the inside of the lid. Then I'll cut that hole, I'll get my buttons together, make sure they line up pretty good, and then it should be a finished product, right? Once this is leather stiffened or whatever, once it's done, it should be good. One thing I will say is I probably should have kept track of which tool was where. I just know that this was in the middle someplace, but it'll be okay. I'll figure it out. Anyway, thanks. I will be back. All right, guys. Unfortunately, we had some severe weather coming through last night, and I was not paying attention, and I deleted the video. It was a short video. It was only about 2 minutes, but I deleted the video where I took all the weights off of the desktop, and then I pulled the new case out of the wet mold press, and then since it was still damp, I went ahead and I dunked just the bottom of it, not including the flap because I want it to fold. I dunked the bottom of it in that stiffener, and it's had most of the night to dry. It's still a little damp, but it's going to do exactly what I needed it to do. It's really nice because that flap actually folds out just a little bit. I'll put all my tools in here. The mushroomed tops go towards the upper portion of this. Punches aren't, well, if you shake it hard enough, the punches will fall out the side, but I'm about to do the buttons here. I'm going to show off this little project in just a moment. So first things first, I've got to figure out where my first button's going to go. And I'm thinking maybe right there. And then I'm just going to figure out roughly where I want this one. Looks like probably right here. Now I could probably measure that, but I don't want to. Let me grab my punches. And if sounds like Squidward's walking around in here, it's because I'm wearing my Adidas slides with no socks. What color of buttons do I want? I'll just use these brown ones because I haven't seen these brown ones yet. And I think those will look pretty good. Give me just a moment here. I'll get all the pieces for my buttons out. 2 snaps. 1 base. 2 base. I need 1 more cap. 1 more. Lock. There we are. All right, remember, buttons are 4-part systems. Oh, I just dropped all of those. Buttons are a 4-part system. So you're gonna have the bottom, right? And then you're gonna have the bottom inner portion. Then you're gonna have the top inner portion, which is the snap. It connects to that. And then you're gonna have the top, which is the actual button, all right? And so these 2 pieces will punch into the face of the leather, and these 2 pieces will punch through the base of the leather. What I'm gonna do here, so I've actually made a mistake in my layout, because what I wanted to do is punch from the back. So I'm actually gonna redraw those holes. And put 1 here. And we'll go with 1 there. And then, when I'm figuring out what size hole I should be running, you'll notice all these have leather in them. I've used each one of these punches probably 10 times over. I'm going to go back to the smallest segment. It's got this little brass plate that it pushes against. You see all the cuts and divots in it. This thing's actually not very good. I think we've just overused it in the time that it's been here. But it doesn't make full contact with the bottom plate. So when you're cutting the plug out, you got to kind of twist a little bit. All right, and then hopefully this goes through. It's not going to go through on the first try because these are all the holes are always a little too small on first go. So if you have to, stick something in there, bore it out a little bit. And then I might have to go give me 1 second. I'm gonna use this. I'm gonna get my end in there nice and good. I'll spread that out just a little bit. Let's see if this works this time. All right, I may have to go one hole size bigger. That's unfortunate. And I'd be surprised if this actually does anything because I've already cut that hole out and I spread it. So it's probably not going to do very much for me. It's the downside of trying to get this fairly wet leather to do what you want it to do, because it's still damp from, there we go, it's still a little damp from the hardener, which is ideal because it's going to get hard again, just not quite yet. There we go. Yeah, I just needed to spread those a little bit better. And then what I'm gonna do, I'm gonna put all of these back in here one more time. Just like that. And then when I close this lid, I can put the divots on the underside that should dang near perfectly line up. What I shouldn't do is twist with that plate on the rear side. It's not going to be visible because there's a button fastener on the back side, but it still makes a difference, I think. Yep, and I'm gonna have to, I still gotta do this. Easy peasy, lemon squeezy. Got that from Austin Powers. Come on. Nice. Any of these have a wide enough opening? Yeah, that's good. All this is it's a rivet punch. It's got a hole in it so that I can line these things up. All right, I'm gonna go ahead. It's gonna be kind of loud. Let me get my policing book up here. I guess I ought to get a hammer as well. I like to use a good rubber mallet because it transfers that slightly better. And this will be the punch I use because the tip is just slightly bigger than that, so it's going to give me a lot more roll. If I were to use this one, I think with how thin the tip is, it might just crush the collar down. So I always go with a slightly bigger tip. All right, and that's how you put a button on. These ones are pretty decent buttons. Oops. Yeah, these buttons go on pretty quick. I don't know if they're decent buttons. They go on pretty quick though. We use this divot here. Cool beans. That's tight. Same divot on my punch plate. And this all came, these came together in one kit, which is actually why I'm making one kit for the set. I want them to stay together. Put this here. Remember, it kind of kicks a little crooked. That's how it's wet molded. That'll slap back close. Come on. There we go. It's probably a little loose over here, but I can re-dip these edges in my hard form stuff, and then that's all my punches in one kit. Remember, that started from an idea and a piece of paper. I mean, this was a very easy project. If you decide you want to get into doing stuff like this yourself, it's not very difficult. Let me get rid of my book. I'm going to show you one of the other cool little projects I was working on last night. You can see it here in the frame. This, unfortunately, did a bad job on my rivets. I was trying something new. It was very hard to get a decent hammering face in this inside corner. It's already been dipped in my hardener. The seam has been washed a few times. I might put a strap here or a magnet or something to hold it down, but on the inside I've got flaps that should hold some tools from falling out if it just tumbles over, and then the inside edge here is rolled. And this one actually started, I drew it out, I figured out what I wanted based entirely on spacing, and then I used the rough thickness of the leather to give me standoff distance for my folds after I had already drawn everything out. And so instead of a 1-to-1 ratio, this is more like a 99% accurate size, and then as you're creating your folds and cutting edges off, it shrinks down just a tiny little bit, but not very much, you know. It shrinks just a little bit. You can see that on the sides there. But if you if you work it out and you create a really good functioning model and you kind of understand how this stuff works, you can pretty much make just about anything you want out of leather. And then to make sure all my straps were the same, I created, or I guess not straps, but the rivet tiles or the buckles or the belt, whatever you want to call that. I wanted to make sure these were all the same. If you look here, you can see that the first ones I drew out were actually all freehand, but then I switched to the back. I traced all the strap out exactly as this is. I replicated the holes so all the holes were in the same arrangement. You'll notice slightly off at an angle, but that's just how this strap was set. And then, in the long run, the rivets are going to hold this box together better than the box needs to be held together. I thought about sewing it, but I wanted to try rivets because I've only done rivets in a couple of situations on leather, and I wanted to try rivets on something like this to see how it worked. And again, this is just like this here. This is a kit entirely for my toolbox. It is going to hold all of my decorative tooling items. And I figured, what better way to hold my decorative tooling items and my punches inside of my toolbox than in some handmade leather kitware, you know. So now if I want to do some leather artwork, or if I want to do some decorative paneling or design, all of my stuff now fits in a much smaller footprint. This is the old one, you know, and this used to this is inside of my toolbox, so this was taking up space. And this one does technically take up more space, but if I wanted to, I could probably put some other tools in it. Some of them are too long, obviously, but these aren't the only small leather working tools I have, and it wouldn't be out of place for other small items to go into this box, because I can very easily remember that this box has small tools in it, especially if they're decorative or for decoration or finish, right? Anyway, thank you for joining me on another journey. I hope that this was informative to some of the stuff that maybe you don't know about or didn't know about. It's pretty easy. You don't have to do anything perfect. Remember, this can be totally for you. This can be totally for fun. You can practice without anything having to end up very good. So find you a distributor or something that's got leather. Get some fairly inexpensive tools. You don't need a lot, man. You need a pencil, you need a burnishing tool. This is my favorite punch set right here. Actually, I've got this I've got this hand punch, but this one's just as fucking, sorry. This one is just as good. I did not mean to curse there. I do apologize. This one's great. This is a button. This is a button, anvil, and stake, but I don't use this one. It just hangs out in here. And this is for eyelets, grommets. What are these? These big suckers right here. I'll show you. I've used these before on a different project. I did a Western style belt. But yeah, I mean, check that out. Perfect. Fantastic. These could go in here too, but all these little heads are tiny. I might make an individual kit for this set here. Maybe make a little box with a button flap and then a single slot on the side, like a pen holder on one side and then a tiny little tab box here so I can pop it open and get all the heads out. But I guess we'll see. Again, thanks for stopping in. I hope you enjoyed the video. Don't forget to leave a like and subscribe. If you want to see more stuff in the future, I will try to be here. Thanks, and have a good week.